I just want to forewarn everybody, when that happens, don't despise small beginnings. Okay, small hinges open big doors, and whether that's your first $200-300 a month, first $700 a month, understand that it's a brick by brick process, right? You ain't got to go out there and swing for the bleachers. You got to hit some base hits and maybe a couple bunts to get on base, but appreciate that, because what that's showing you is that for the first time in your life, you've used your imagination and your creativity to create wealth.
For me, when Brian he expounded on he asked a question. What's your monthly price line, so to speak, or uh,
The magic number.
the mat? Yes, absolutely. So um, it really challenged me because a lot of times you can dumb yourself down because you've never been there before,
For sure.
or either overestimate what you actually need in
For
a month.
sure. For sure.
So it kind of caused me to to fall back and to really assess what I actually need. And sort of like Isabella, that in not dumbing myself down, the more that I can actually accumulate, then I can pay off those student loan debts and be done with that. And
That's
so
right.
therefore the DTI, it comes all the way down and it won't disrupt my credit report. I mean, not that it has, but I've been working on my credit for a year and it's
Mhm.
great. And so I don't need that DTI anywhere near the hard work I put in. So it kind of just allowed me to really reassess how much I actually need to go toward that, to eliminate that completely so I can really be free.
We overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we could do in 10 years, right? And while I wanted y'all to think about the magic number, whether it be 10 grand, 20 grand a month, 5 grand, whatever the number is, just remember that the only way to get there is brick by brick. So you'd be surprised how, yeah, it's like I need 5 grand, I need 10. That first time you get an extra $700 a month that you didn't do any work for, it's gonna do something to you. You know what I mean? It's gonna do something to you. And I just want to forewarn everybody, when that happens, don't despise small beginnings. Okay? Small hinges open big doors. And whether that's your first $200-300 a month, first $700 a month, understand that it's a brick by brick process. Right? You ain't gotta go out there and swing for the bleachers. You gotta hit some base hits and maybe a couple bunts to get on base. But appreciate that, because what that's showing you is that for the first time in your life, you've used your imagination and your creativity to create wealth. That's the accomplishment, right? The zeros, you add those on over time. The real accomplishment is the fact that you used your imagination, right, that God gave you to go and create wealth. Wealth is a spiritual event. It's not physical. That's why people go out and they work 80 hours a week and still broke, because it's not a physical output. It's a spiritual output. It starts in your imagination. That's where wealth is created.
Say for instance, like you have a deal that pencils as far as like numbers and everything looks perfect. At what point, or is there a point, like if you have to walk away from the deal, like what do you do even if the numbers pencil? Is there a point at which you would walk away if everything looked right on paper?
Yeah. I mean, the scenario I gave yesterday would be a great example of that, right? The 300 and some units, that deal pencil every day of the week. I mean, and so much so, and I thought about this after I told y'all the story. As I was in prayer, right, God told me, he was like, you can go do that and you're gonna make money. Right? It wasn't like he made it seem as if it was a bad thing. He just told me, he was like, you can go and make money, but you gotta understand something. I know what you know about that environment. And so how can you expect me to bless that? Seed and harvest is principle. We go do that work, we were gonna make the money. You know what I mean? It was so much more about everything else than it was about the practical application and the fact that it would generate some income. It was about what was I gonna give up and compromise and sacrifice and regress back to in the process of doing so. And that's what he just was like, you do what you want to do. You go make some money, but there's no covering on that. I can't bless that because you know who you're doing it with and what's going on. So I can't bless that, right? If it's a good deal and for whatever reason I'm not going to do it, like I'm gonna find somebody that want to. You know, like I gotta exhaust every opportunity to at least wholesale it. I mean, a great example of that would be last year. I was getting ready to buy this 8-unit apartment building, got it under contract, renegotiated the number down like another 75,000, got it where I wanted, and then I found out once the rent moratoriums were lifted that it was taking like 6 to 9 months to get tenants out of properties, right? So the very reason why I was buying this property is because all the rents were like at $500, and I knew I could come in and get 8850 Section 8, so I could increase the value by almost $400,000 just by doing that one move, right? But the very thing I was encouraged by became my biggest detriment once I figured out that it was going to take 6 to 9 months to get these people out. Then I still had to do another rehab after that, which is probably going to be another 3-4 months. And so now I got to hold this building for 12 months. And so now I got to figure out, is the juice worth the squeeze that I'm going to let somebody essentially live here rent free while I'm going through the eviction process, then have to put this capital into it. I mean, it was an 8-unit apartment building. It would have been good if I could have bought it in the way I wanted to buy it, but the deal was still good and the pencil, the value was there, but the process was just going to take so much longer. So I could do so much more and I could do different projects, easier projects, quote unquote, in that 12-month period. And so I just so happened to be, I was in Boston with Brianna, and Darius just had hit me to check on me. And I was telling him what was going on. I'm like, man, I'm about to end up having to let this deal go. I'm just, I'm in Boston with Brianna. I ain't got the bandwidth to really push it out on the wholesale, but that would be the ideal scenario. He was like, man, I got some guys from Israel that's looking for those type of buildings right now. Send me the performer. So it was a Friday. I sent it to him, and man, it's so funny how I always say intention, disruption follow intention, right? Because literally all of this happened right after we got rear-ended in Boston, right? Darius had to happen to hit me 10 minutes after we got in an accident. And anyway, I sent him the performer Friday. By Sunday, he had a buyer. We ended up wholesaling and making 30 grand in like less than 2 weeks. So I'm always talking about what I'm doing. I'm always seeking and looking and, looking for those windows of opportunity so that if I got a good deal, even if I figure out that it's not a good deal, maybe in a certain application for me, that I'm gonna find a way to try to maneuver and make some money off of it. Cause I still invested some time throughout the process. You know what I'm saying? So we want to be sensitive that we get compensated for our time.